what can I tell you about the man known as Geddy Lee? Well, let me run it down to you this way. Born, raised in Toronto, the son of Polish Holocaust survivors who moved to Canada after the war. Now, his birth name is actually Gary Lee Weinrib, but with his mom's heavy accent, Geddy sounded like Geddy. Hey, Geddy, come here, Geddy, whatever, right? The name kind of stuck. 1969, Geddy and his pals, guitarist Alex Lifeson and John Rutsey, drummer, formed a little outfit called Rush. And in 1974, they released their first album. It was self-titled. That record, by the way, biggest selling debut ever by a Canadian band. Eventually, Rutsey was out as drummer. In was the magician Neil Peart. Oh, and the rest, as they say, music history. About 24 albums, more than 35 million records sold, and an induction into the Juno Hall of Fame, a star on Canada's Walk of Fame. Oh, incidentally, the band also been made officers of the Order of Canada. And aside from his passion for rock, Geddy Lee is a huge baseball fan. Often seen cheering on the Blue Jays, he's a self-described wine geek, actually showed off his toboggan skills as well on the Rick Mercer Report.
Geez, that was fun. When you come to stop, immediately check to make sure the coast is clear, move to the side, of course make sure your hair is good, and then hand your toboggan to your roadie to take back up the hill. Thanks.
Rush are back with a brand new record. It's called Snakes and Arrows, and they've just kicked off a worldwide tour. There's the man's entire life in about 90 seconds, and here is the man from Rush, Geddy Lee. Nice to see you. So you're back on the road again.
I am.
It's been a while. You like going back out?
It's been a couple of years, yeah. We had a bit of a hiatus a few years ago, but these days we take about 1.5 years between projects, so that's enough time to recharge the batteries.
And I wonder if at this stage of your career, if you have to approach things differently.
Yeah, I do. I have to have some respect for my years, so to speak. Make sure that there is enough time between projects for a lot of different reasons, you know, to enjoy my family, to enjoy my private life, and also to recharge the batteries so that when we get back together that we're souped up and ready to go.
I often wondered when you're in a situation where, like, if rock and roll works out perfectly for you, it's still a business designed to kill you. Like, even if you achieve all the goals that you set out to achieve. And at a certain point, did you initiate the learning process of how to be better in your or did other people have to pull you aside? Like, how does a band at your stage learn that they need to be better at this?
Well, when you're young, of course, you're ambitious and you just accept everything that comes your way because you really want that dream. You know, you're chasing the dream. And pretty soon you start realizing that there's collateral damage in your private life. And you look around, you see that there's damage in your family, there's damage in your personal relationships with your friends, and life has become one-dimensional. So if you're wise and if you have good people around you, you get a nudge and you go, look, I can't live a good life this way. So you start then taking control of it and limiting your working hours and paying more attention to the things you have to pay to.
Does that make it easier, or is it more difficult when you get back into the studio to make a record?
I think it makes it easier because you feel like you have had a good amount of time with your kids and your wife and your life, and you're excited to go back to work. You know, you've had a space and you've let the creative juices, you know, nurture a little bit, and also you're hungry to do something great. So I think for us it's a good combination.
I think your record, your new one, Snakes and Arrows, debuted at number 3 in Canada, debuted at number 13 in the United Kingdom, which is your highest debut in 16 years.
Yes.
And what does that say to you for your band at this point?
Well, it's always surprising to me that after all these years, our fans have stuck around in such numbers. And we had a feeling when we were making this record that we had done some very good work, and I think the early returns, I guess, are seeing that that's true.
How do your contemporaries, when you first started putting out records, now when they tour their catalog, and they are essentially novelty acts, they're casino acts. Right. They play on the past. And a lot of times it's because the fans like that.
Yeah.
For you and for your fans, do you get the sense that they want new stuff as well? Because you could just as easily tour 2112 and do a 55-minute version of Overture, and they'd be fine.
That's true. Well, you know, we did this 30th anniversary tour in 2004, and you're right, it's difficult for us just to go out there and play older material. We are really excited about new material, but we said, okay, it's 30 years, that's something. We should mark that in some way. So we went out and we played nothing but older material, and at the same time we didn't feel right about that, so we quickly recorded a little EP of cover songs. It's just something to add, something new to make us feel like we're still progressing. But now that we've done that, and we feel that now we have this new tour coming, that we're going to play a lot of new material, and we've revamped the show pretty well, completely. And also the fact that we play 2.5, 3 hours gives us lots of time to play the oldies and the newies. So,
well, you know, when you're 25 years old, playing 2.5 hours is fine, but when, I mean, you're not 25 years old, you have moments where you're like, what am I doing?
I'm not 25 years old, it's true.
Do you, at some point during the 95 minutes, 2 hours in, you're like, oh, Lord almighty.
Yeah, I have different parts of my body that speak to me rather clearly at about the 2-hour mark, but you know, that's why we all have personal trainers.
That's right.
Try to get fit. Oh, yeah.
I remember I think it was in grade 5 when someone brought me the Bob and Doug McKenzie record, and you were doing Take Off. And
I began my life in comedy, you know.
Did that, exactly. And how has that life worked out for you in comedy?
Very well, very well.
And you just did the anniversary of the Bob and Doug McKenzie thing.
Yes, I did, yeah, that was fun.
You guys are kind of cultural icons as well.
Well, I guess in a way, yeah, I guess we are. It's hard to look at yourself that way. We still consider ourselves to be 3 musicians that are just trying to get better, but I guess we've been hanging around Canada for a while, and we've got that thing going on now.
You're one of those bands that actually made it in the States, though. Mm-hmm. And you always hear about bands having to make it in the States, and you know, you haven't really established yourself until you can accomplish something there. You guys have made it pretty early on. The American audience has really liked you.
Well, we were fortunate because back in the 70s when we were trying to make it here, there was not really a united Canadian music scene. You know, it was pretty individual. There were local bands, and we were, you know, we were a local Toronto band that had
rock
success.
stations too, right? Because Q107 in Toronto didn't come till the late 70s.
That's right.
So there weren't a lot of rock stations.
It was hard to get on the air. It was hard to get. We couldn't get a tour across Canada. We just couldn't get on one. In fact, and when we finally put our first album out, it was much easier for us to get an American tour than a Canadian tour. So we just went where they wanted us, and they wanted us in America, so we went down there. And then once we had a certain amount of success down there, things had changed in Canada a little bit, and much music and the new music, and there became a scene here that was starting to support Canadian talent across the country in a better way than in the early 70s.
Do you, I mean, you look at it now, it's so much more evolved.
Oh, yeah.
If you guys were starting today, how much different would the beginning of your career be?
No, we probably still wouldn't get signed.
That's that math rock band. That's what I would say, right?
They're just too many odd time signatures now.
What's the strangest fan you've had? Like somebody walked up to you, somebody who's a celebrity now who said, man, I loved your band. Because I'm sure you had a lot of that. Whenever I'm working in the States on anything and somebody finds out that I'm from Canada, they rush. I get Rush. And it was like, yeah. Well, and water. We have other things too, but Rush.
It's nice. I mean, it happens in the strangest places. You just never know. I was on a hiking trip with my wife in Patagonia a number of years ago. And I was in this little town in the farthest reaches of Argentina. Mm-hmm. And we were just about to get on the bus with a bunch of other hikers, all dressed in hiking gear. And there was this bar owner who had heard somehow that I was in town, and he'd been up all night drinking to get his nerve up to come and meet me at 7 o'clock in the morning, standing there in ridiculous hiking outfit, and just to ask me for his autograph because he was a huge Rush fan. That really struck me because of the remote nature of where I was, you know. Sure. And I was in a headspace where I'm going to hike today and not thinking about me as a member of a band, just thinking of me as a guy who's going hiking. Mm-hmm. And here was this really sweet man who was so nervous, and it was very nice.
Your wife's that's just got to drive her crazy.
Oh, yeah, she just walks away when something like that happens. You know, she's so Canadian that she just gets embarrassed immediately.
But that is a big part of, I guess, of your story, the fact that your relationships through personal, within the band, within your own private lives, the things you have gone through, and to be able to learn together to get here, to actually make it in that sense.
Well, it's important for us to be normal, to raise our children in a normal way and to feel normal. And that is, I think, kind of a Canadian attitude, if there is one. But that's the way we believe, and that's served us well all these years. You know, what I do is a job, and yes, it's a job with some great advantages, and it's a job that has great public exposure, but at the end of the day, it's a job, and I come home, and I've got a family, and I've got a normal life like everybody else.
Now, do you look at Rush and say, I got at least another 3-4 records in this band, or you'll just keep playing in Rush?
I don't think past the project. Yeah. You know, honestly, at this stage, I'm thrilled that you know, we're just finishing a project that we really believe in and love, and I'm thrilled that we've got this tour ahead of us, but I can't really even think beyond that.
You're on TV probably more than any other Canadian musician, and that's because your baseball seats are right behind home plate.
That's right.
And every time I watch the Blue Jay games, it's like, there's Geddy Lee from Rush. You're sitting right there.
I know. It's the curse and the blessing of having great seats.
It's good to see you, man. Thanks for coming in.
Great to be here.
Geddy Lee, everybody, from Rush. Snakes and Arrows is the name of the new Rush record. They are on a world tour right now. Stick around. More on the hour. We'll be right back.